MLB's trying to give Isaac Collins Rookie of the Year. Drake Baldwin said, not so fast. Braves win 11-10 against the Chicago White Sox to tie the series. Let's talk about it.
This is the Braves Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Braves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your Atlanta sports teams each and every day, and sometimes we're just emotionally spent at the end of doing it. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. That is Jake Mastroianni, host of Locked On Braves. Make sure you follow him on social media at Shortstop Ball. Subscribe to the Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcasts, because we're going to have thoughts about this series and about this game. Jake told you going into it, White Sox offense has been pretty good. We've seen 43 runs between these two teams in the first two games, but Atlanta rallies, scoring the final 7 runs of the game to win 11-10. We're going to get into a bunch of the specifics, Jake, probably almost all offense here. We'll talk about Bryce Elder a little bit, but it's not going to be very nice. But before we get into details, just the emotions in this game. I wrote the position player tweet. I pre-wrote the position player tweet for Luke Williams and checked what his ERA was and checked to see if any position player had ever pitched a back-to-back. And then Atlanta comes back to win this game. What are the odds? What is this team doing right now?
I mean, I think the odds are pretty good when you're facing the White Sox bullpen, but I mean, it has been a wild 2 games here. The Braves and the White Sox, 2 best offenses in baseball, squaring off. No lead is safe in this matchup. The matchup that nobody wanted to see, that everybody can't stop watching. That's exactly what you're seeing right now with the Braves and White Sox. And yeah, it doesn't matter if your team's out of it. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat watching this one, pulling out my hair at parts of it as well. And yeah, it's still baseball. It's still your favorite team, and you want to watch them win. And it was exciting comeback win.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into some of the specifics. Obviously, the turning point of this game here was the 8th inning. They get some runs thanks to Drake Baldwin, but there was some ugly stuff on the way there. You had a big rally in the 7th. Okay. One, how surprised were you that with 2 runners on, Vidal Brujan was the pinch hitter for Nick Allen instead of Sean Murphy? I know Murphy's been cold recently, but it still felt a little surprising to see Brujan sent up there in place of Sean Murphy as the pinch hitter in the 7th inning. Yeah,
I mean, because he is the guy that Snicker normally goes to, and I believe Sandy Leon is still on the roster. I don't think we've seen him.
No, he was
part of the projections today. So maybe that's part of the reason why then, I would guess, is maybe you didn't want to use your last catcher there, and Murphy's been kind of cold lately. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know obviously you were going to put Brujan into the game either way to play shortstop. So I'm guessing that was the thinking for it. But yeah, that wasn't one of the more surprising things we saw in this game.
Yeah, I was kind of bearing the lead a little bit. This more surprising thing was bases loaded. And in case you don't remember, Michael Harris has been one of the hottest hitters in all of baseball in the second half. I mean, his OPS is like 1140 or something nuts in the second half. And Jurickson Profar walks to start the inning. Matt Olson doubles, so runners on second and third. They intentionally walk Ronald Acuna Jr. to get to Michael Harris, who, by the way, had already homered in this game. And first pitch sacrifice bunt. Jurickson Profar's thrown out by, I'm not a mathematician, I'm guessing about 37 feet at home plate. One, that's got to be on the player, right? Like, Michael had to call that. There's no way the coaching staff told him to do that. But, like, okay, I'm the never bunt guy. But, like, even you, who are on the side of bunting, you immediately put on social media tagging me, like, don't ask me to defend it. I can't defend it. What is it with the urgency or the desire to bunt in those situations?
It felt like it was probably a little bit of a too big brain moment for Michael Harris, where he thought nobody's expecting this. And Michael, there's a reason that no one's expecting this right now. It's because you are the hottest hitter on the planet and everybody's expecting you to hit a grand slam right now. So I mean, nobody saw it coming, and that's why. Look, if he lays it down the line, it probably works, but he didn't. He bunted it right back to the pitcher. And look, I don't care. And again, I am the pro bunt guy, but I don't know anybody that can really defend it in that spot. Nick Allen bunting earlier in the game. Look, anytime Nick Allen comes to the plate and there's a runner on base and lets him do outs, I'm okay with him bunting. Do it all day long. But your best hitter right now, I was even a little surprised they walked Acuna to get to him, quite honestly. I mean, with the way that Michael's been hitting.
I'd rather pitch Ronald Acuna Jr. right now.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to say. And then he laid down the bunt, and then, not to divert away from that too quickly, but then the next batter is Marcel, who gets up 2-0 and pops up in foul ground, and you're thinking, oh no, they're about to blow this away. But I could not believe that Michael laid down the bunt, and that is on Michael. I mean, if Snit, I know everybody's already ready for Snit to go anyway. If he called that, I mean, sorry, he needs to go ahead and announce his retirement now. But I would have to imagine that was Michael just trying to probably be a little bit too big brained, thinking nobody's going to see this coming. And even if they don't see it coming, if you bunt it right back to the pitcher, it doesn't matter. It
was a little too nobody saw it coming, because Jurickson Profar didn't break for home because there was no outs. He had to make sure whatever contact wasn't a line drive or a pop-up or something like that. Like, I maintain, to your point, if he had gotten it down the line and Profar knows he's going to do it and can break for home when he either squares or when he actually makes contact, he's probably safe. You get the run in, but didn't happen. Thankfully, Drake Baldwin bails everybody out here. He gets the line drive to right. I honestly thought that was going to get caught.
Especially after the catch earlier in the game, too. He had on Nacho. It was like the same play that he caught.
Exactly. I was really thinking this was going to be a noble Tiger, bases loaded, no outs. He can't bring anybody in. But they do get that. They complete the comeback here. And it's almost not even worth to me, like, going through all of the stats. 13 hits in this one, 11 runs, 6 for 19 with runners in scoring position. Like, there's a lot of things to like in this game, but some of the bad stuff was just so egregious to me. And Rick Farlow of MLB.com put it really well on social media. Watching the Brewers and the way that they play, and then watching the Braves do some of this stuff kind of makes you realize that this team, and you can look at this good or bad, right? This team has a lot of ways with which they can still get better. And you can look at that negatively and say, well, they're not being coached very well, they're not very good. Or you can look at that positively and say, like, they still won the game despite making all of these terrible mistakes. Imagine how much better they would be if they were more fundamentally sound. They could run the bases better. They could, bunt at the right times and lay down a good bunt and all of that stuff. Just wild game tonight, Jake.
Yeah. And look, I know a lot of people are going to say, since Ron Washington left, this has been the case. The Braves haven't been fundamentally sound offensively in my mind. Ron Washington was more on the defensive side, where they have been fundamentally sound in the past, and I think still are, even without him. But they haven't been fundamentally sound offensively for years. They've just been reliant on the home run ball. And look, Braves won. This is fun. We're not trying to be too negative here. But back-to-back innings early in this game, you did have Nick Allen get down a good, well-executed sac bunt to set up runners second and third, and you don't score. You also had a stolen base in that inning, which was good to see. The next inning, Ronald gets on, steals the base, gets the third with less than 2 outs, and you don't bring him in. You get the back pick on Vidal Brujan that ended that 8th inning as well.
Very good play by Chicago, by the way. Like, that was a call play. They planned that.
Probably that's got to be a little bit on the coach too, right? Yeah. I mean, when you see a planned play like that, you see the first baseman crashing.
You got to get him back,
You got to let him know. But yeah, I mean, it was a good play, but it just can't happen. But those are just some of the little things that you see in this game. Like you said, to your point, as great as this offense has been in the second half, you can probably point to a handful of plays every game where they just didn't do something fundamentally right that cost them even more runs. So, I mean, to your point, again, trying to bring it back to the positive side, they clean up some of these things and they continue to swing the bats like they are now. I mean, this could be one of the best offenses in baseball again. So, yeah, there's still room for improvement, even with as well as they've been playing lately.
Yeah. All right. We talked about the positive stuff. Let's get to Bryce Elder and the pitching staff. We'll do that next right here on the Braves Postcast. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your futures bets now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason NFL is already heating up. College football is not far behind. And whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in the game. And plenty of MLB options up there on the board as well. You can say, hey, it looks like Atlanta Braves starters are going to get lit up by the Chicago White Sox. So let me go into that first run option and decide what I think the stat projection is going to be there. What I think that starting pitcher line is going to be. Are they going to give up more or less than 2 runs? It looks like it's going to be more than 2. And the flex play option is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you still double your money because Prize Picks puts their members first and all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game. Welcome back to the Braves Postcast. Answering a question from the chat real quick from Steven. Does anybody know why Ben Ingram isn't on the radio? It's a scheduled time off. He said he'll be back for the weekend. So just kind of answered that real quick. All right. Bryce Elder. I start a comment. I'm not going to put the person's name up here. Somebody said, you said Elder was bad. He was not. Bryce Elder went 4 2/3 innings with 9 hits and 8 runs allowed, 2 walks to 3 strikeouts. And here was the big thing for me on the Bryce Elder start. He didn't give up a home run. He let 11 guys get on base and 8 of them came around to score. I know we've talked a lot about this. He's not in your top 7, 8, 9 options for next year, you hope. But this definitely has to be a situation where when Chris Sale comes back, I feel like there's a genuine question here. Does Bryce Elder get sent down versus DFA and Eric Fetty or somebody else?
Look, I'm going to defend Bryce Elder a little bit in this one. Look, he's not great. And if he gets, the same thing I said with Carlos Carrasco, you want to DFA him, that's fine. Same thing I said with Eric Fetty. You want to DFA him, I'm fine. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. You want to send Bryce Elder down, I'm fine. He got BABIP to death in this game. I mean, only 5 hard hit balls allowed. And you look at that 5th inning, and it's a single at 72.7 miles per hour, a single at 88.7, 94.6, 95, 98.5. I mean, it was a lot of balls. And that's the variance with Bryce Elder that I talk about all the time. Is that fine line for a sinker ball pitcher that needs ground balls, and he needs those ground balls to go to somebody. Now, he was leaving too many pitches up in the zone, but he also just had a lot of balls that did find holes that were able to squeak through the infield. You also had to play at the plate that if Baldwin's able to hold on to that baseball, that guy's out, by 10 feet, not as bad as Profar was on that bunt. But you also had that out that would have got him, been out of that inning. I think the game still would have been tied at that point. So, again, I'm not saying he's great. You want to send him down in case of somebody else, you can. But kind of like with Fetty, I said on the last start, I mean, because it wasn't a good start either, wasn't good results, but he had a lot of things go against him in that start, mainly the umpire behind the plate. Elder just had some batted ball luck, and that's just part of the Elder experience. And you got to know that going in as somebody that's going to pitch to contact and get a lot of ground balls. Sometimes those ground balls just find holes, and sometimes it happens 4 or 5 times in one inning. That's unfortunately what did happen in that 5th.
Yeah, and I do think that there is something to be said for the fact, I remember counting this up the other day. He is just short of the number of days to spend in the minors to actually officially use his option time. And so, if you keep him up the rest of the year, he never officially pops the option, the option to the minors for 2025. And he has, options left next year. So I do think you could just keep him up. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to think about maybe a next season thing, using him in long relief. I don't think you move him out of the rotation now, because if somebody else gets hurt, you're going to need him again. But I do think that you're in a situation like this where, I mean, we see Hurston Waldrop tomorrow. I honestly think Hurston Waldrop, just based on the little bit he showed us, it feels like the ceiling's higher and the floor is at least where Elders is, if not better. So, yeah, he's not going to be one of your top 5 options next year. I don't think it's the end of the world if you lose him, but I do think there is value in if you can get him right. And I know we said that a lot. If you can get him right enough to be a number 5 and eat innings, which you will need every year. You'll need that over the summer. There was a great conversation on there too, on the broadcast. Shout out to Wiley Ballard for this. Talking about how Bryce's slider is a little bit different from some other sliders and how much work he's had with that. Like how much work he's had to do to make it be consistent. You know, whether it's the vertical break versus the horizontal movement, and how is this different? I do think that there might be a little more willingness on Elder's part to accept some major changes in the offseason. Like we see sometimes pitchers who are struggling at a new pitch and things like that. Maybe some acceptance there for Bryce Elder. Outside of that, and then Hunter Stratton had, I think was it Hunter Stratton? I'm sorry, Connor Siebold had a little bit of trouble. Dane Dunning pitched really well, like a 13, 14 pitch inning, 2 strikeouts. Dylan Lee pitched well. Raisel Iglesias came out and no strikeouts, but just looked to be another very good version of himself. Gave up hard hit contact, and I think all 3 batted balls, 2 of them, but got the outs. And I'm kind of at the point now where I'm not as concerned about the main guys in the pen as I thought I was going to be based on how the first half of the year went, right? I still don't love the Connor Siebold's. I still don't love those depth guys. But your main, your Pierce Johnson, your Dylan Lee, your Raisel Iglesias, I feel like the back end of the bullpen's been pretty good in the last 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, it always makes your bullpen better. And we said this earlier in the year when guys are giving you 5, 6, 7 innings. Yeah. And they haven't been doing that lately, but the games that you've had, you've been able to kind of spread it out where you're not having to, and especially because the games, for all intents and purposes, don't matter as much for the Braves right now. Yeah. So you're not having to push, even though Iggy has done it, you're not having to push these guys to pitch, 3 out of every 4 days or anything like that. So you're able to get them a little bit more rest. But yeah, when those guys are well rested and you're only using, Pierce Johnson, Dylan Lee, Raisel Iglesias, I feel much better about, those guys in the bullpen going forward. And I feel much better about the bullpen overall for next year too. But as I keep saying, it doesn't mean you don't need to go out and still find, some solid veteran setup guys and maybe even a closer in the offseason.
Yeah, you absolutely have to kind of reinforce that group a little bit. You can't just run it back. I don't think any part of this team you can just run back and hope you're okay. No. You have to do more in every area. And I know you're going to have a ton more about that on Locked On Braves as we get closer and closer to the offseason. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Tomorrow, 7:15 series finale, Martin Perez, a lefty. I'm guessing you probably see Sean Murphy in the lineup versus Hurston Waldrop. Really excited to see what Waldrop does. 3-0, 102 ERA for Hurston Waldrop on the year. So kind of curious to see how well he can look again tomorrow. Do us a favor. If you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to both Locked On Braves and Locked On Sports Atlanta. Gets you all the Jake stuff, but also gets you coverage of the Falcons over on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Whether it's the Atlanta football party, everything else they're doing over there to cover the city's sports as a whole. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Lindsay Crosby. This has been the Braves Postcast.